And we're back on Political Connections, and Florida lawmakers will be back in Tallahassee this week, getting started on the upcoming March legislative session. The one goal they must achieve by law, passing a balanced budget. Political Connections' Greg Angel shows you how lawmakers are divided on how to handle billions of fewer dollars this year than last, and how it could have a direct impact on families across Florida.
Long before the pandemic, Central Florida was in an affordable housing crisis, in a wage crisis. Many families were already facing difficulties. Then came COVID.
You have millions of Floridians who have been pushed into poverty or unemployment, who are facing eviction, who need relief from the state.
Relief is not cheap, especially now. Even with a $90+ billion state budget, Florida will have to adjust. State economists estimate Florida lawmakers will have to somehow fill a budget shortfall totaling $3.3 billion over the next 2 years. There's already debate over at least two ways of getting there.
For me, I welcome budget cuts. I think there's too much government in Florida.
I will be looking for opportunities to eliminate things that we simply don't need anymore or we can't afford.
We need to look beyond where we have been and just talk about cutting and talk about going back and raising revenue to cover the shortfall.
There's absolutely another way. What we have to do is we need to be bold to seek revenue solutions.
Call them the recoup cash and cuts plans, if you will.
If you just do 1, 2, maybe 3% budget cuts across the board for every agency, that's $1.6 billion right there. It should be actually pretty easy.
Republican State Representative Anthony Sabatini says cutting cash from state agencies and lawmakers' own pet projects could be key.
They're not bad items. They're for a good cause, but they're not the role of government.
Well, Governor DeSantis vetoed nearly $1 billion from the 2020 budget. Republican colleagues say even agency and member cuts won't amount to much.
A sophisticated budgeting process will go program by program.
Republican State Representative Randy Fine says to actually get the budget in check, they'll have to comb through recurring costs, considering the impacts. Education and health care made up nearly 70% of last year's budget.
It's programs that have just happened this way for years and decades, and there's never the financial discipline to actually cut anything because there's always plenty of money.
Democrat lawmakers, however, say not so fast.
There are ways that we can meet the shortfall through things such as online sales tax.
The argument is that Florida is only collecting online sales tax from companies with a brick and mortar presence in Florida, when it should be collecting on all online sales.
That sales tax that should be collected there is based on the honor system.
Jimmy Petronis is Florida's chief financial officer.
For a while there, Amazon had zero presence in the state of Florida. But as soon as Amazon opened up a distribution center in the state of Florida, automatically Amazon's sale of goods forces a sales tax collection process.
Petronis says this alone would not cover the budget gaps. State Representative Guillermo Smith says Florida is also missing millions by allowing corporations to skirt tax laws.
They will have a single tax bill for all of their businesses and subsidiaries, which for the time being, what they've taken advantage of in the state of Florida is being able to hide their assets and basically shield their businesses from taxation.
Democrats are looking to recoup cash not only to fill the gap, but to expand state aid. There is a push to expand state unemployment benefits from the current 12 weeks of $275 to 25 weeks of $500.
I think making sure that people have a roof over their head, food on the table, appropriate clothing for themselves and their children is the investment that we need to make.
It's a cost Thompson says the state can't afford not to pay. It's a cost Fine says the state can't afford to give.
I look at every dollar that we give to one person is a dollar we can't give to another. And I take it even further. When you give a dollar to someone who doesn't need it, you steal it from someone who does.
And I think if you ratchet up unemployment benefits, you actually exacerbate unemployment. You're looking at making people incentivized through federal and state unemployment payments not to look for a job.
Expanding benefits will no doubt be a political divide when lawmakers meet for their next session in March. They'll also have to consider the Sadowski Fund. It's meant to help support affordable housing programs, but the money is often used for other purposes. Last session, it was fully funded for the first time in 20 years. But
there was $230 million of Sadowski dollars that were going to be used for affordable housing this past legislative session. The governor vetoed the utilization of those dollars. What he ended up doing is using CARES Act dollars because there was guidance from Treasury that allowed housing to be used with CARES Act dollars. So, where we could get innovative and creative using federal dollars to replace those state dollars was ways that we knew the next legislative session would appreciate having a little bit of extra money to work with.
And getting creative is what lawmakers will have to do.
This is why it's really important that we think outside the box and take this budget gap seriously.
Greg Angel, Political Connections.